the sound of the rain on my roof. Hello fellow YouTubers. Today is the Sunday, July 1, numero uno. I had planned to do my first air rifle shooting video today, but we have a pluvial day, precipitation, it's raining and it's wet, so no go. I was going to do another video, but it was outdoors as well, so end of that. So I decided today I would do a reading, a short reading from Talbots Book of Yesterdays. You've probably heard me mention that title before, or maybe not, but that's irrelevant. But first I'm going to read you the blurb, the sort of blurb that you might get on the front and back covers, maybe. To his three friends, Henry Talbot, age 11, is something of an anachronism. Where Chris Loader collects bubblegum cards, Malcolm Wheeler matchbox cars, and Sean Lister stamps and coins, Henry collects knowledge of the past from his 6 age friends, writing it down in his journal, his Book of Yesterdays, he calls it. But other than that, Henry is just a normal kid, sharing many common interests with his 3 friends, one of which is a profound interest in the UFO phenomenon. Not one of the 4 has ever had a sighting in and about their hometown of Riverton in country New South Wales, nor a sighting anywhere else, if it comes to that. However, during the first week of the 2011 Easter school holidays, Henry, his 3 friends, and 2 visiting cousins of Sean Lister, Kelly and Ryan Hunter, go on a camping trip to the nearby Riverton National Park, setting up camp close to the base of Raven Mountain, a virtual hotspot for UFO activity in the area, in hope of having a sighting, and a sighting they will have. A sighting that will turn out to be one close encounter too close. For as Raven Mountain looms over them, dark and foreboding, they are being watched, and the watchers are not of this world. I've got all the blurbs here. See how long ago I wrote it? That's just 4 years ago. And see for Gail, my wife of 40 years. How time flies. And my 2 sons, Derek and Darren, my immortals. And this is a work of fiction. And this book is subject to the laws of copyright. Anyhow. Henry Talbot's Book of Yesterdays. We're all time travellers, Henry, Mrs. Louisa Anna Smythe said, matter-of-factly. But Henry didn't nod his head. Mrs. Smythe was always making such statements matter-of-factly, and most of the time Henry nodded his head in agreement. But not this time. Henry is 11, a child of the 21st century, has watched countless films featuring time travel, and his juvenile mind is wondering if Mrs. Smythe knows something the rest of the world doesn't. That time travel isn't science fiction, but a fact of science. And his young face has confusion written all over it. I can see you're confused, Henry, Mrs. Smythe said, in between sips of lemonade. Henry had only recently finished mowing Mrs. Smythe's front and rear lawns, and is now resting under the shade of the front veranda, sitting on one of 2 white lattice-work cast iron chairs, opposite Mrs. Smythe separated by a complimentary table draped with a white linen tablecloth. Paying host to a tall, clear glass jug, now half full of homemade, ice-cold lemonade, 2 glasses, and a silver salver holding Monte Carlo cream biscuits. Mrs. Smythe, as always, is dressed in her finely befitting a woman born in 1918. An ankle-length, lace-cuff, long-sleeved, neck-high bodice, plain white dress that is tied loosely about her slender waist with a light pink ribbon. But although this day, Friday, April 8, 2011, is very warm, a crocheted woolen shawl is draped over her shoulders. Henry has a feeling that, because of her age, she probably wears the shawl to safeguard against the possibility of catching a chill. Continuing, Mrs. Smythe said, "I don't suppose young people consider time. They rarely do. I know I didn't when I was a young girl. But when you're old, time is of the essence, and one tends to reminisce of those times long since past. Perhaps you even find it hard to believe that I was once young. And I must admit there are times I find it hard to believe myself." She smiled. "I was, of course, dear boy," a twinkle in her eyes. "But time has a habit of getting away from you very quickly. And before you know it, your journey through it is almost over." Henry understood now what she meant. She wasn't referring to travelling back and forth through time, but simply her life journey through her time. And what a journey it had been. What a journey it had been for all of Henry's age friends, too. That's why he looked forward to talking to them. Well, listening most of the time and absorbing what they had to say, then writing it all down in his journal. His Book of Yesterdays, he called it. Henry, unlike his friends, doesn't look upon old people as being outcasts and to be avoided, but as databanks overflowing with untold stories that most will think were very ordinary, but to Henry were anything but. In a world that was entirely different to what Henry was accustomed to, and all the things he took for granted. Yet their day-to-day lives weren't all that much different to today's. As much as things change, they tend to stay the same, his father was fond of saying. Henry continues to ponder that adage, trying to make sense of what, to him, doesn't quite make sense. He is well aware of climate change, the ever-changing world he lives in, and that his young body is changing. So how is it possible that things tend to stay the same? Maybe it'll make sense to him when his brain is fully developed. "Did you know, Henry," Mrs. Smythe said, "if I had a chance to go back and change things, anything or everything, I wouldn't. I don't think I'd even want to be young again." My father, Reginald, often broached the subject of immortality because it fascinated him, being a doctor, as he was. And I would think about it and wonder what it would be like to never die. At first I thought it would be wonderful to live forever. But when my mother and father passed away some years later, I realised how sad and lonely I would be to see my children, their children, and their children and so on die before me. It just wouldn't be natural, Henry, because death is a natural part of life, and not to succumb to it would be in defiance of the Almighty's law that govern each and every one of us. Henry nodded his head and sipped his lemonade. The lemonade that was very good this time. Sometimes Mrs. Smythe got it wrong, either adding too much sugar and making the lemonade too sweet, or not enough sugar and making it bitter. He always drank it because it was the polite thing to do, hoping Mrs. Smythe wouldn't notice him grimacing or sucking in his cheeks and pouting. She never said anything if she did, but he noticed her discreetly cover her mouth with her handkerchief. a handkerchief that would appear out of nowhere, as if plucked by magic out of thin air. On the odd occasion when he did, so maybe she did notice and was smiling under the handkerchief, so as not to embarrass him. "The lemonade is very good, Mrs. Smythe," Henry said. "It is, isn't it?" "Oh, I know I get it wrong now and then, Henry. But at my age I think I can be forgiven for that. Don't you think?" Henry smiled and nodded. "Did I ever tell you that my great Aunt Constance almost sailed on the maiden voyage of the Titanic, Henry?" "Yes, Mrs. Smythe, and I wrote it down in my journal." "Did I now?" she said, slightly flustered. "I don't remember doing that. Still, I suppose I shouldn't be surprised. One of the unfortunate byproducts of old age is losing the capacity to remember things." Henry knew that that was true, and there wasn't anything that he could say. Anyhow, Mrs. Smythe probably didn't expect a reply, for she was, after all, merely making a statement of fact. She was right about it being unfortunate, though, because it was all too common for his aged friends, 6 in all, to begin recounting an episode of their lives, only to abruptly stop, sometimes in mid-sentence, leaving Henry high and dry and wondering if there was something wrong with them. It was drawn-out moments like those that scared Henry, the not knowing if they simply had a mind lapse or experienced the pain of a heart attack. For it was always in the back of Henry's mind that could happen. And he always felt helpless when it happened, because there was nothing he could do but wait in fear and observe until the episode was over. Only Mr. McCoskey had the ability to continue on where he left off without the need to be prompted, something Henry wasn't particularly fond of doing, and rarely, if ever, resorted to. If he was asked, "What was I saying?" he politely reminded them. But if they didn't, he almost invariably erred on the side of caution and let it pass. The only exception was when the not knowing the full story was paramount to maintaining continuity. For without the complete picture, there would always be a big question mark on the page. "Which reminds me, Henry, did I pay you for your labours?" "Yes, thank you, Mrs. Smythe." Henry received $25 for his work. Far too much as far as he is concerned, considering the work only cost him his time. But Mrs. Smythe wouldn't have it any other way, for she is firm of the opinion that man or boy made no difference in the amount that person should be paid. However, Henry always feels a pang of guilt when accepting the money, because Mrs. Smythe's lawns were small and took about an hour and a bit to complete, whereas the lawns that surrounded his home were 3 times their size, took twice as long, and he didn't receive payment at all. His mother and father, John and Carol, believed it was good for his brother and he to take turns in doing the lawns because he built character and taught them the importance of responsibility. His brother, Bradley, always makes a point of asking why their sister Megan doesn't take turns mowing the lawn. After all, she is part of the family. Henry can see and understand his point, but the parents take a different view. Megan, they say, is 9 and not physically capable of doing it as yet. But when she's older, she will. "Yeah, right, and pigs might fly," Bradley will remark to Henry. Henry agrees. "Will you be doing Mrs. Brubaker's lawn this afternoon, Henry?" "No, Mrs. Smythe. I did her lawn last Saturday." "She's a dear old soul, don't you think?" "Yes, Mrs. Smythe." I think I'll leave it there. Lovely, really raining, coming down nicely now, giving the garden a good water. No, not yesterday, because I didn't upload yesterday. I had a kerfuffle with what I'd recorded and decided to delete the files. But I want to thank Dill for her concern, because she sent me a comment asking if I was alright because I hadn't uploaded, and because I was alone, because my wife has gone away. We'll be back on Wednesday. So that was very decent of you, Dill. Thank you very much. Most sincerely appreciated. Yes, well, the day before, the upload, the word of the day was parsec, P-A-R-S-E-C. A parsec is an astronomical distance equal to 3.26 light years. There you go. Now, today's word of the day. So the word of today is comestables. Comestables. C-O-M-E-S-T-I-B-L-E-S. Comestables. Go and look that up in your funkin' Wagner. Well, I'm sorry, Funkin' Wagner. Yeah, I remember they used to have adverts on TV. Funkin' Wagner. I don't know why I find it funny, I just do. Anyhow, that's it. I want to thank you for watching, and until next time, bye for now. Funkin' Wagners.